Hi, everyone. Welcome to Both Sides of the Story. I'm your host, Alan Janae from CBS 4. Thanks for joining us tonight. Our special high school debate fall tournament is at its end. Welcome to the championship match. On tonight's show, students from Cherry Creek High School and Mountain Vista High School square off to be named the champion of this fall's tournament. Both of the students tonight have prepared a pro and con case for tonight's debate topic. They won't know which side they'll be on until we have our coin flip right here in our studio. So let's meet our students right now. First up is Shrushti Manikandan. Shrushti is a senior at Cherry Creek High School and actively competes in extemporaneous speaking. Outside of debate, Shrushti is a co-president of Cherry Creek's National Honor Society and is very passionate about tutoring children in her community. She has also learned classical dance for 11 years. Next up, Abhi Bandhari. Abhi Bandhari is a senior at Mountain Vista High, where not doing debate, he is busy doing other things. He runs cross country and track. He volunteers weekly at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. And so good luck to them both. Also joining us, our special panel of experts tonight who will offer their analysis of the debate. They are Dominic Dezzutti, host of Colorado Decides, the election debate series produced in conjunction with CBS 4. Next to him is Patricia Calhoun. Patty is editor and founder of Westward and a regular panelist on Colorado Inside Out. And next to her is Eric Sondermann, political analyst, also seen right here on Colorado Inside Out on Friday nights. All right, let's set the ground rules for you right now. Each side will present their case, ask each other questions, and have a chance to offer rebuttals. When it's finished, we'll go to our illustrious panel for their own questions and find out whom they felt offered the best arguments, and we'll crown our champion. So let's get started. The issue up for debate today is this: should undocumented students get in-state tuition at all Colorado colleges and universities? So let's have our coin flip right now, and we'll get things underway. Shrushti, you are to my right. I'm going to give you the opportunity to call it. Go ahead.
Heads.
And we have heads. What would you like?
I'll take the affirmative.
You'll take the affirmative. That means you go first. Abhi, you go second with the negative. Shrushti, as the proponent during this round, the floor is now yours for 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I stand in firm affirmation that undocumented students should get in-state tuition at all Colorado colleges and universities. In today's competitive world, higher education has become a prerequisite to achieving social and economic mobility. Around the country, undocumented students are restricted to a high school education despite many of these students' interests to pursue post-secondary options. By providing in-state tuition to undocumented students, Colorado would not only be able to help high-achieving students attain college degrees, but our state will also gain social and economic benefits. The first reason why Colorado colleges should provide in-state tuition to undocumented immigrants is because this would significantly increase the number of college graduates. Since 2001, 18 states, including California, Texas, and even Colorado, have passed legislation extending in-state tuition to undocumented students under specific restrictions, and all of these states have seen an increase in college enrollment and graduation rates. The University of Maryland, Baltimore County, reports that on average, college enrollment rates among undocumented students, mainly from Latin America, increased by 4%. Evidently, more undocumented students would attend college if given in-state tuition rates, which leads me to my second point. An increased number of undocumented college attendees would benefit all of Colorado. From a social standpoint, as more undocumented students enter Colorado universities, they will provide diversity in terms of race, ethnicity, and experiences to college campuses. Research from the University of Wisconsin reveals that diverse working groups are more productive, creative, and innovative. Thus, passing this resolution would foster a more diverse educational environment that benefits all students in Colorado. Furthermore, supporting this resolution would expand economic benefits for our state. The National Immigration Law Center shows that money paid by the undocumented students actually increases university revenues because it represents income that the institutions would not receive otherwise. Additionally, as the number of retirees in the state of Colorado continues to rise, our economy will need more educated workers to fill job opportunities, which can be done by providing accessible college education. As the number of employed workers increases, tax contributions for Colorado will also increase, thus helping Colorado's economy. Across the board, evidence points to one conclusion, which is that Colorado's education, economy, and students would all benefit tremendously from providing in-state tuition to undocumented students. And because of these reasons, I am proud to affirm the resolution.
Shrushti, thank you very much. Abhi, you have the negative side. You now have 2 minutes for questions and cross-examination. Go ahead.
All right, so in your second argument, you talk about how revenue from these colleges are going to increase, right? But isn't when we make college free for these students, they're not going to be contributing any revenue to these colleges. So how is that going to increase their revenue?
So we're not providing free education to these students. We're giving them in-state tuition. So for example, at Boulder, that would be around $11,000. So these students are still paying tuition to these colleges and universities. They're not going there for free.
Okay, so at that point, if they weren't able to afford the regular rate of tuition, why will they be able to afford the in-state tuition? They're both really high price tags, right? And so what's the differentiation between the two, and how will that lead to more people going to college?
So we can see that this answer can come in a few ways. So for one, even though college is expensive, in-state tuition is almost 1/3 of out-of-state tuition. So this is a huge decrease in terms of how much money these undocumented students will have to pay. Moreover, if we actually want to look towards numbers that have been reported in the past, out of these 18 states that have implemented these policies, the number of college attendees for undocumented students has increased, showing that undocumented students are taking advantage of this opportunity, meaning that there will be more revenue for colleges and universities.
Okay. Now, going on to your, also on your second contention, you talk about how diversity improves productivity. Aren't Colorado colleges already pretty diverse?
They are diverse, but having more diversity does not hurt anyone.
Wait, but if it's just more of one ethnicity coming in, that's not going to increase diversity if there's already a lot of that ethnicity at these colleges, right?
There really isn't any, I'm not saying that we're decreasing diversity by promoting undocumented immigrants. I'm saying that currently in college environments, by promoting undocumented students, that's a group of students that would not be in the college environment otherwise. So beyond just race and ethnicity, when we look towards diversity in experience and backgrounds, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Abhi, thank you very much. That's it for the questions right now, but it is time to hear your case in the negative. Abhi, the floor is now yours for 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I negate today's resolution. Undocumented students should not get in-state tuition at Colorado colleges and universities. My first argument is that colleges are beginning to reach full capacity in Colorado. According to the Inside Higher Ed Journal, colleges in Colorado are already reaching their full capacity and barely have the infrastructure to hold the current amount of students right now. Classrooms are full, resources are being completely allocated, and campuses are swamped with students. These colleges just simply do not have the infrastructure necessary to enact this resolution. In fact, Forbes continues, finding that a large influx or spike in the number of students right now would create an immense strain on colleges across the board. It's clear to see that right now, making colleges pay in-state tuition for these students wouldn't do these schools any good. The New York Times furthers, finding that a strain on these campus resources would result in a higher student-to-faculty ratio, meaning lower quality of education, fewer resources and tutors available on campus, and a lower standard of living for all students on campus. So, rather than being beneficial to these students, this would actually be detrimental, as they would not be receiving a quality education and would be in fact harming the quality of education for everybody on campus. Additionally, as Reuters points out, campus funds are also low, meaning that any additional influx of students would reduce the amount of funds available for things like grants or scholarships. Indeed, the Washington Post continues, finding that this would lead to a decrease in the amount of grants for research, need-based scholarships, and merit-based scholarships, ultimately undermining a large number of students' careers. Clearly, offering college tuition for an in-state level for these students is not the way to solve these issues, as it would only serve to undermine the very schools that they are trying to attend and wouldn't even benefit them and would harm the quality of education they would receive. My second argument is that this policy is absolutely unnecessary. There are already plenty of scholarships that undocumented students can receive, meaning that providing an in-state college tuition for these students, regardless of merit, is absolutely unnecessary. The CCA indicates that there are over 15 different merit-based or need-based scholarships in Colorado alone that provide students with the tools that they need in order to succeed in the 21st century. These include scholarships like the Dreamers Roadmap, the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, and the Golden Door Scholarship. These scholarships end up taking enormous amounts of money off the total price tag for these colleges, making college incredibly affordable for these students and preventing these colleges from becoming overburdened. So rather than making all Colorado colleges offer in-state tuition for these undocumented students, we should provide money towards these scholarships, as they only apply to those who need them and they don't overcrowd colleges like providing in-state tuition does. Providing money to go towards these scholarships is the sustainable solution to this issue. Thank you.
Abhi, thank you very much. The question, should undocumented immigrants receive in-state tuition at Colorado colleges and universities? This is the championship round. On the negative, Abhi Bandhari. On the positive, Shrushti Manikandan. Shrushti, 2 minutes now for questions to Abhi. Go ahead.
I think you bring up some really good points. So let's start with your first point about how colleges are reaching full capacity and we would essentially be putting other students' education in detriment. So when we're accepting students, when these colleges are accepting students, are they going to be accepting every student that applies to the school, or is there an admission process regardless of whether you're undocumented or documented?
Well, yeah, like when you increase the amount of applicants, obviously you're going to increase the amount of applicants getting in, right? Because colleges look at merit. So when you make like college more affordable to these students, to all students regardless of merit, then yes, that would create a large number of students in these colleges.
Okay, and addressing your second point, the scholarships that you talk about, do these specifically provide a college education, or what kind of resources do these provide?
What do you mean?
Like the scholarships that currently exist in Colorado, do undocumented students who qualify for these scholarships, like what resources are they getting from these scholarships?
Oh, all sorts of things. So if these students qualify for these scholarships, they get things like room and board, they get college tuition, some of them get grants for scholarships. The Golden Door Scholarship actually gives grant money towards these students so they're able to pursue a research career, which, first of all, gives them resources, and B, takes the strain off of colleges, like I talk about in my first contention, when if we allow them to pay in-state tuition, that's going to put a strain on the amount of grant money that these colleges are able to apply or are able to give to these students. So when we have these scholarships pay for these grants, then we'll be seeing that these colleges won't be stressed for funds.
But relating this back to your first point, so if these scholarships are giving undocumented students the opportunity to attend college, doesn't that again tie in with your point about how we're reaching full capacity?
Right, but not every student qualifies for these things. That's the difference. That like the people qualify for these scholarships based off of merit or based off of other things.
Okay, but isn't it true that when a college, like for example, a college like University of Colorado Boulder, who does have a relatively lower acceptance rate compared to other schools in Colorado, and they're accepting students, they do have a merit-based acceptance. They're not just going to accept every student who applies. So how is this really any different from scholarships?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
So what I'm trying to say is that not every undocumented student who applies is going to get into any of these colleges that they apply to. So, but what you're saying is that even with these scholarships and things, these students are going to attend college. So I feel like that's a bit contradictory because with the plan that you're supporting with scholarships, that's essentially doing the same thing.
Not exactly, and here's the difference. When you apply for these scholarships, they have a significantly lower acceptance rate for these scholarships, right? So we won't be seeing them being overburdened because not as many people get those scholarships as opposed to how many people get into CU Boulder, for example. So that's the difference between what you're saying and what I'm saying.
All right, we'll have to wrap up those questions right there. Shrushti has the pro in this, and you now have 2 minutes for a rebuttal on the question of whether undocumented students should get in-state tuition in Colorado. Go ahead.
So I'm going to start with my opponent's case. So my opponent's first point is that colleges are reaching full capacity, and by providing undocumented students in-state tuition, we would essentially be depleting a lot of resources, putting education at harm. But what we have to understand is two things. First, colleges are not going to accept every single undocumented student who applies. It is a merit-based system, and if they can only accept a certain number of students, they're only going to accept a certain number of students. It's not like they're going to accept more students just because more undocumented students are applying for a certain college. But what's more important is that we have to realize what Colorado should prioritize. Even if this means promoting more funds towards education to grow infrastructure and educational resources, this is necessary because the United States and Colorado specifically is going through a period where a lot of baby boomer employees are retiring, and a lot of their jobs that they're leaving behind need to be filled by employed and well-educated people. So even if it means that Colorado will have to allocate more funds for colleges and universities, the fact is that this is necessary because it's going to provide benefits and promote more well-educated people into the workforce. Second, when we look towards his second point about how this entire resolution is unnecessary, we have to realize that, like he said, the scholarships that exist are very selective. But there are so many undocumented students in Colorado alone that have completed a satisfactory high school education who deserve and are well qualified to get a college education. So by just restricting these undocumented students to scholarships alone, we are, one, decreasing the potential for these students to enter into the workforce in the future and fill job opportunities that are left behind by baby boomers, but we're also just increasing the potential for diversity and educational benefit that other students in Colorado will see. So now going back to my case, we have to realize that when Abhi talks about how the colleges are reaching full capacity, we have seen in other states that have implemented similar programs, college enrollment has increased by 4%. So colleges are able to take more students in, which is something that we have to look at in this debate.
All right, Shrushti Manikandan from Cherry Creek High School, thank you very much. The question of the day, of course, here being, should undocumented students receive in-state tuition in Colorado? Abhi Bandhari of Mountain Vista High School, you have the negative side. You now have 3 minutes to respond and close. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's start with her responses to my case. Now, on my first argument, she says that colleges won't accept all students, but then she turns around and says that college tuition or college enrollment actually increased when we saw that they offered in-state tuition to these students. So clearly, colleges are going to be accepting more and more students. And in these other states, like she talks about, they actually saw increased number of students, which once again put a strain on their resources, provided less quality education opportunities. Look at her own examples, and you can see that these colleges are simply unable to enact this action in the real world because all it's going to do is put a strain on resources and it won't actually benefit anyone there. But there's her second argument, or her second response to this argument, is that jobs are being lost, baby boomers are leaving the workforce. But here's the thing. When she says that we need a quality educated people. The thing is, when we overstrain these colleges, we're going to be seeing that there's not enough grant money, not enough scholarship money, and overall there isn't going to be enough resources to provide all these people with a quality education, which means that when we actually talk about enacting this resolution, this is not the way to actually increase the number of people, number of skilled workforce people in the economy. So now let's go on to her case. Her first argument is that when we increase, or when we provide in-state tuition, we actually increase the amount of graduate students and we increase the amount of people in the workforce. Once again, look to my own case. The process of actually giving these people in-state tuition is not worth the result because A, not only does it undermine the education for those who are in the actual colleges, it increases when we provide in-state tuition for these students, all it does is harm the quality of education for all students across the board, not just the undocumented students that the resolution is talking about. But secondly, and what's fundamental to this debate is the fact that we already have plenty of merit-based scholarships and plenty of merit and need-based scholarships that are available to these students, which means that providing a free college tuition is absolutely unnecessary when we're talking about giving these students an opportunity. If these students have the merit, if they have the need-based, the thing that they need, then they're going to be able to qualify for these scholarships, and that will come at the cost, that will come at no cost, as opposed to what Shrushti's talking about, where we provide in-state tuition for all students. That's just going to harm these colleges, and it's overall going to be a net harm to these colleges.
Abhi Bandhari, thank you very much on the negative. Now on the pro side, Shrushti Manikandan, your 1 minute close.
So I would first like to start off with my opponent's discussion about how colleges are reaching full capacity and how I'm kind of providing a solution that would essentially deplete resources, hurt education. But what we have to see is that in my second point, I talk about research from the University of Wisconsin stating that with more college students, especially from diverse backgrounds, this would increase the productivity, efficiency, and quality of education, which my opponent really does not touch on. So even though we would be accepting more students into these colleges and universities, this would actually provide benefits, and it's important that Colorado prioritize providing more funds into education if it means that that's the only way we can pass this resolution. Second, we have to see towards my opponent's point that about the scholarships. He says that scholarships are the better replacement for this idea, and these are already in place, so this resolution is unnecessary. But these scholarships are extremely selective, and there are so many undocumented students nationwide and statewide especially who need college education that's not as selective in order to replace the employment that's being lost through baby boomers. So for these reasons, an affirmative vote is necessary.
And there you have your debate. Shrushti, Abhi, thank you very much for a great debate. Let's go to our panel of experts who will determine a winner in this championship round. Dominic, take it away.
Thank you very much. First of all, Shrushti and Abhi, you have made it clear to our audience why the two of you here are in our championship match. So well done, especially on a topic that is being debated across the nation. So well done. We're going to ask some questions of both of you. I'm going to let my esteemed colleague, Patty Calhoun, start. And we'll start with the AF case with Shrushti. Patty?
Shrushti, I'm interested. You mentioned restrictions in some states. What kinds of restrictions have worked?
So, for example, a few years ago, Colorado passed legislation that provides in-state tuition to undocumented immigrants, and the restrictions were that these students have to have completed 3 years of high school in Colorado, or if they have not done that, they need to have had a GED or some similar education of that sort.
Eric, a question for Shrushti.
Sure. Shrushti, I want to ask you sort of about the issue of fairness. Money is limited. If the scholarship goes to one person, it's not available to another person. There are also people of merit who have earned scholarships who are Coloradans or citizens of the U.S. If you give a scholarship to a non-citizen, as you're arguing, or not a scholarship, but in-state tuition, that is money not available for that merited person who is a Coloradan. Can you please discuss that?
Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really good point, and the answer comes in two different ways. So the first thing that we have to realize is that if there are two equally qualified students, one being undocumented, one being a legal citizen, it's very unlikely that they're going to reject the legal student and take the undocumented immigrant, considering they're both very full potential and have similar merits. So clearly it's not really putting students at a huge disadvantage who have merit to come to these colleges. But the second thing that we have to realize is that, like you said, money is limited. But if we educate more students with this resolution, then eventually this is going to help Colorado's economy by providing more tax money and things as such, which could in return go back to education and promote the future generation of students seeking a college degree.
Shrushti, a quick additional question. Is this unfair to have a policy that would help undocumented students get in-state tuition to an immigrant who is a legalized immigrant who either became a citizen or went through the expense and effort to get into this country that an undocumented student, whether or not their fault, has not gone through?
So I think this comes down to a few problems which really reflects on the bigger immigration issue that our nation is facing. And I think that passing this resolution is actually a step forward to addressing a more comprehensive immigration problem that our whole country is facing. And like you said, a lot of legal immigrants are in certain cases putting a lot of hard work to get to this country, and in some cases they're being disadvantaged. But by looking at this resolution holistically, we would not only be able to find potential solution to make these undocumented immigrants residents or citizens in the future by encouraging partisan conversations, but this would actually promote the entire issue of immigration, whether that's legal or illegal.
Abhi, it's your turn. Patty?
Abhi, I think you mentioned that a possibility would be having the Colorado state government contribute more to scholarships rather than taking this program. How would you see that work?
So essentially what the Colorado government would do is that they would take a few scholarships, a couple of the ones I mentioned, for example, the Golden Door Scholarship, the Hispanic Dreamers Fund, and just subsidize those scholarships essentially, provide money for these scholarships because A, they go based off of merit, which is a much more fair way of doing it, and B, they're able to prevent this overcrowding issue that I talk about in my case.
Eric.
And for me, Abhi, I want to talk about particularly dreamers, focus on dreamers who came to this country at a young age, very young age in some cases, not of their own decision. Their parents brought them here. If they have achieved through high school, if they played by the rules, if they show the potential to really be strong parts of this country, shouldn't there be an incentive for them to be able to go to a Colorado college or university?
Yeah, and there's plenty of incentives for them to do so. You know, Colorado has one of the most amounts of scholarships available for these students, like I've alluded to in my case. And so those act as incentives for these students to achieve, to inspire, and to just overall go for what they believe in, because then they are able to qualify for those scholarships. So we are already doing that, so there's really no need to put a strain on colleges as well.
I'll be just a quick, kind of, I guess, a math follow-up here. If a college has 100 spots available, and in 1 year they have 500 applicants, they're only going to let in 100. If the next year, because of in-state tuition for undocumented students, or because they win a national championship, they get 1,000 applicants for those same 100 spots, aren't they only going to let in 100 students?
Well, in theory, that's correct, but when we look at states across the nation, we see that in order to maintain, because a lot of schools like to maintain their acceptance rate, right? So they end up actually admitting a lot more than they can handle, which overall leads to the depletion, to the strain of resources like I talk about.
Alan, you can see we have our work cut out for us. Give us a second.
All right, Dominic, thank you very much. The question up for debate: should undocumented students be eligible for in-state tuition at Colorado colleges and universities? This is the championship round of both sides of the story. It's taken a long time to get here to this particular one as we give our panel a moment to consider whom they felt won this debate. That'll give me a moment to let you know we have been very proud to bring this latest both sides tournament to you. I want to thank all the students who have participated, the teachers and coaches who have helped them, and thanks to you for supporting the program. It's the support of viewers like you and our sponsors that helps to make this show a reality. All right, panel, we need your decision.
Like I said before, Shrushti and Abhi, you proved our audience capably why you were in the championship round. You did a fantastic job on a difficult topic. Thought you both offered great argumentation. But Shrushti, we're going to give the debate to you. We thought you offered great arguments and refutation, but both should be very proud and did the series proud with your debate today.
Absolutely fabulous. Shrushti Manikandan, thank you very much. Congratulations to you from Cherry Creek High School. And Abhi Bandhari from Mountain Vista, congratulations to you. Great championship debate. That does it for this Both Sides of the Story tournament. You both gave our viewers a wonderful debate tonight, and we're all very proud. That's all the time we have for our program tonight, so I want to thank our excellent students for accepting our challenge and participating in our debate. I want to thank our esteemed panel for sharing their thoughts as well. And finally, thank you for tuning in. You can catch all of our great Both Sides debates on cpt12.org. Be sure and check them out. And don't miss our live election coverage right here on CPT12 from 8 to 10 p.m., which will include live reports from CBS 4. And you can catch me every morning on CBS 4 for all the latest news and information about this year's election and issues. For everybody here at Colorado Public Television, I'm Alan Janae. Thanks for watching. And that is Both Sides of the Story.